Good morning, fourth graders. Today we're on page 143 of your student journal, page 143. And our objective today is, today I will add mixed numbers using the commutative property. Okay, so our goal is today I will add mixed numbers using the commutative property. Okay, and we're going to talk about mixed numbers and commutative property in our vocabulary today. So let's look at our vocabulary. Our first word is improper fraction. And this is something that we've learned, so they're just reminding us. It says it's a fraction representing a value greater than 1, that's important, greater than 1, in which the numerator is greater than the denominator. So the numerator is greater than the denominator. So there's lots of examples of this, but I could say if I had 5 thirds, that is an improper fraction because my numerator is greater than my denominator, and this has a value of greater than 1 because 3/3 is equal to 1. So if I have more than 3/3, I know I have a value greater than 1. Another example might be 6/4. So again, my numerator is greater than my denominator, so it is called an improper fraction. Okay, our next word is a mixed number. A number composed of a whole number and a fraction. So an example could be if I had 5 and 1/2. So I have a whole number and a fraction together. That's called a mixed number. Okay, we have an equivalent fraction. An equivalent fraction says different fractions that represent the same value. So here we have a model of 2/4, and here we have a model of 1/2. So even though these fractions look different, if we look at their value, they're exactly the same. So we call those equivalent fractions. Okay, this is our big thing that we're doing today is commutative property of addition. So there's different commutative properties. We're doing the commutative property of addition. So it says add-ins, which are the numbers you're adding. Add-ins can be added in any order, and the sum will remain the same. So their example is 2 + 3 = 3 + 2. So that's what commutative property means. You can switch around your add-ins, and you will not get a different answer. Okay, and our last vocab word is decompose. Decompose means to break down a number into smaller parts. So what we're going to be decomposing is we're going to be decomposing a mixed number into a whole number and a fraction. So all we're going to do is separate them into a whole number and a fraction. Okay, so here's our steps. I'm going to be following these really closely today, so let's look over them. Our first step says decompose each mixed number. Then rewrite the decomposed mixed numbers using the commutative property of addition. So I'm going to rewrite them. And you'll see when I rewrite them, I'm going to group the whole numbers together and I'm going to group the fractions together. Then it says I'm going to add the whole numbers and add the fractions. Then it says I'm going to combine the sum of the whole numbers with the sum of the fractions. So pretty much I'm going to put these together to make a mixed number. That's what I'm going to be doing on number 5. Is I'm going to make a mixed number. Okay, and number 6 is really important. Number 6 says regroup if the sum of the fractions is an improper fraction. So we can never leave our answers as improper fractions. So we're going to have to regroup if we see that. Okay, as I'm doing mine, I want you to have your steps out so you can follow along and see that I'm going to just follow these steps. Okay, so here's my first problem. My first problem says 2 2/5 plus 4 1/5. Okay, so it says I'm first going to decompose them. So I'm going to break apart the mixed number. So I'm going to have 2 plus 2/5 plus 4 plus 1/5. So all I did was broke apart the two mixed numbers. Okay, my next step says I'm going to rewrite. So when I rewrite, I'm going to group my whole numbers. So I'm going to say 2 plus 4. So I'm going to, and that commutative property says I can do this, that I can move around my add-ins. So I'm going to just put the fractions next to each other and the whole numbers next to each other. Okay, step 3 says I'm going to add my whole numbers. So 2 plus 4 is 6, plus 2/5 plus 1/5 is 3/5. So that was step 3 and 4. Step 5 says I'm going to make that mixed number. So I'm going to put those back together and I get 6 and 3/5. And step 6 says that check for improper fractions. 3/5 is not an improper fraction though, so I can leave that as is. Okay, so let me see another one, and hopefully you followed along and saw how much I just followed my steps exactly. Okay, this time I have 23 and 4/6 plus 4 and 3/6. Okay, so step 1 is I'm going to decompose each number. So I have 23 and 4/6. I broke apart that mixed number. Plus 4 and 3/6. Step 2 is I'm going to rewrite using the commutative property, and I'm going to group my whole numbers and group my fractions. Okay, step 3 says add my whole numbers. And step 5 says step 4 says add my fractions. So 4/6 plus 3/6 is 7/6. Step 5 says make a mixed number. So I have 27 and 7/6. Okay, and step 6 says check for improper fractions. This is an improper fraction because my numerator is larger than my denominator, so it's improper. So I can't leave that. So I'm going to do some work on the side and show you something. So I know that I have 7/6. Well, what do I know about 7/6? I know that 7/6 is the same as 6/6 plus 1/6. Because if I have 7, I have 6 and 1. Now the reason I did the 6 is because I know 6/6 is the same as 1. Because what this means is something was cut into 6 pieces, but I have all 6. Which means I have the whole thing. So 6/6 is the same as 1. So 7/6 is really the same as 1 and 1/6. So if my answer was 27 and 7/6, but 7/6 is the same as this, that means that I can put them together, and instead of that, I'm going to use this. So I have 27 plus another whole is 28, and I have the 1/6. So my answer is 28 and 1/6. Okay, let's try some of these together. And I will be reading our steps, so you don't need to have yours open, or you could just have your book open too, so you could see your steps and your problem. Okay, we are on page 144, and our first problem says 4 and 6/12 plus 6 and 4/12. Okay. So step 1 is we're going to decompose our numbers. Okay, so we have 6 plus 6/12 plus 6 plus 4/12. Okay, step 2 says let's rewrite. So when we rewrite, we're going to group our whole numbers together, and then let's group our fractions together. And that's the commutative property that says you're allowed to rearrange those add-ins. Okay, ready? Step 3 says add our whole numbers. And step 4 says add our fractions. So 6/12 plus 4/12 is 10/12. Okay, step 5 says make a mixed number. So we have 12 and 10/12. Okay, and our final step says check for an improper fraction, but this is not improper because my numerator is smaller than my denominator. So I am done. That's my answer, 12 and 10/12. Okay, let's look at our next one. We have 5 2/3 plus 3 2/3. Okay, so let's decompose first. So we're gonna have 5 plus 2/3 plus 3 plus 2/3. Okay, now let's rewrite using the commutative property. So we're gonna put our whole numbers together and our fractions together. Okay, now let's add our whole numbers. 5 plus 3 is 8. And let's add our fractions. 2/3 plus 2/3 is 4/3. Okay, now let's make our mixed number, 8 and 4/3. And our final step is to check our fraction. And this is improper because 4 is greater than 3. So let's come over here and do some side work. What do we know about 4/3? We know 4/3 is the same as 3/3 plus 1/3 because my two numerators have to equal that. And what do we know 3/3 is the same as? 3/3 is the same as 1. Okay, sorry about that, boys and girls. So we know that 4/3 is the same as 1 and 1/3. So 4/3, we're not going to use that. We're going to use this instead. So if I have 8 and then I have 1 and 1/3, we could say we have 9 and 1/3. And that is our final answer. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, have a great day. Goodbye.